Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with the Dicey Review, and today we're going to be learning how to play the Neuroshima Convoy app being released by Portal Games. Neuroshima Convoy is a head-to-head strategy game that pits the rebellious AI machine army of the Moloch against divisions of brave human outpost soldiers. This is an asymmetric game where the Moloch player attempts to destroy districts within 5 cities ending in New York. If the Moloch player has any cards left in their deck or a robot in the final district of New York, they win. Otherwise, the outpost will win. A game of Neuroshima Convoy takes place over a number of rounds, and in each round, one full battle is fought. Players engage in battles in 5 different city zones. Within each city, there's a number of districts where battles are fought. The battle for each district makes up one round. After each battle, any remaining outpost and Moloch forces will move to the next district within a city. If a battle is completed in the last district within a city, the city is destroyed. When a city is destroyed, no outpost soldiers will move to the next city, but a Moloch movement phase will take place, and we'll look at this in more detail in a moment. Now, each city has multiple districts where a battle will take place, and each battle is divided into 6 phases, starting with drawing cards. In the draw cards phase, each player will draw 2 cards into their hand of cards. And don't worry, there's no hand limit. The discard pile is never shuffled in the game, and each player can check the discard pile by pressing here. Next, there are 2 action phases. In the first action phase, the Moloch player will take actions, and then the outpost player will complete an actions phase. Both players can do the same thing during the action phase: play units, activate units, or play instant cards. The Moloch player has robot units they can play or activate, and the outpost player has soldiers and buildings they can play or activate. When playing a unit to a district, you have to pay attention to the number of battle stations in each district. This is the number of units that each player can have in this district. For instance, in the first district of Ziggy 1, the Moloch player can play 3 units to the district, and the outpost player can play 4. The number of battle stations will vary from city to city. Each unit played into a battle station has a basic strength value, and all of the unit's strength values combined go towards the battle strength total of the Moloch and the outpost players. Total battle strength will determine the winner of the battle. When playing units to a battle station, many of the units have Enter the City effects that will trigger immediately. We're going to highlight some of these abilities later in the video. It's important to note that a player doesn't have to occupy every battle station. Players can also play units to future cities, which will provide benefits that we'll discuss later as well. Another action a player can take during the action phase is to activate the ability of a unit. If a unit that's played on a current or future city has an ability that can be activated, you can do so by selecting the unit, then pressing the activation button, and fulfilling the requirements, if any, to take the action. Some actions can be used multiple times, and some actions can be used once per turn. The final action type that a player can take during the phase is to play an instant card. Any number of instant cards can be played on a player's turn, and unless specifically stated otherwise, an instant card can affect any card in a future, active, or destroyed city. Instant cards can have a variety of effects that we'll discuss in more detail later. And once an instant card is played, it's discarded. After the Moloch player takes an action phase, and then the outpost player takes an action phase, it's time for the module phase. During the module phase, the Moloch player can play or activate module cards. When a module is played, it's attached to a robot in a current or a future city. Each robot can hold 1 module, and when a module is played, it can't be moved unless stated otherwise. If a robot moves, the attached module moves with it, and if a robot is killed, an attached module is discarded with the robot. Now, there are 2 types of modules that can be played. Strength modules, these just add combat strength to the robot that they're attached to, and special skill modules. Special skill modules have a variety of effects. Special skill modules can be activated only during the module phase, but they can be activated right away if a player wants. Some special skill modules have a permanent effect that's active when the module is in play, and it's important to note that the outpost player has no modules in their deck, but they can steal modules using the ability of one soldier. If an outpost player has a stolen module, it can only be activated in the module's phase. The outpost player takes a module's phase after the Moloch player, if they have a stolen module. The next phase is the battle result phase, and in this phase, the strength of both players' units will be compared. The strength is displayed on the left side of the screen. The strength of units can be affected by abilities, modules, and other effects that we'll discuss in more detail in a moment. If the battle strength number is red, it means that the Moloch player has more strength. If the number is green, it means that the outpost player has more strength. Whichever player has more strength will win the battle, and winning the battle will reward the players with different things depending on the city. The effect of winning the battle is always displayed on the top left of the screen, and players can see a key of battle-winning effects by tapping here. Every Moloch victory will allow the player to destroy an additional district. This allows them to march to New York more quickly to hopefully achieve their goal. All of the outpost victory rewards will allow them to discard cards from the Moloch deck. This will help them to slow the Moloch player down and hopefully stop them from reaching the end goal. Some cities will also allow the Moloch player to kill one soldier if they win. And there are also a number of bomb districts. When resolving a bomb district, each player will be able to select one unit, not a building, to destroy. The Moloch player selects first, and then the outpost player chooses. If a player has no units in the active district, then none of their units are killed. And if the battle were to end in a tie, neither player's victory effects are resolved. It's important to note, however, that if there is a tie, the bomb is still resolved. After any of these potential effects are resolved, the current district is destroyed. If you're in the same city still, all surviving units move to the next district within the city, and a new battle and round begins. If the final district in a city is destroyed, then a sixth phase will take place, the Moloch Convoy movement phase. In the Moloch movement phase, the Moloch player can choose one robot to move to the next city. This movement is mandatory. And after moving one robot, any remaining Moloch and outpost units are left in the destroyed district and the city is destroyed. Players will continue to play round after round, fighting more battles until the game ends. And the game will end after all battle effects are carried out in the final district of New York. If the Moloch player has at least one card in their deck or one robot in New York, they'll win. Otherwise, the outpost player will win. It's also possible for the outpost player to win before the final battle of New York. If at any point at the beginning of a battle, the Moloch player has no cards in their deck, no cards in their hand, and no robots in any current or future city, the outpost would win immediately. Now that we've covered the basics of gameplay, I want to discuss future cities and movement. When playing a unit, they can be played in a current city or in a future city. If a unit, whether it be a robot or a soldier, is placed into a future city and an opposing unit is not in that city, this unit would gain +1 strength. There are also abilities or instant cards that allow movement of units, and when moving, a unit moves from one city to an adjacent city. If the new city that the unit moves to is unoccupied again, they would gain +1 strength again. Depending on the situation, this can happen multiple times. For instance, this unit was placed in a future city. They gain +1 strength, then they're moved to a new city using their ability. They gain +1 strength again for a total of +2. It's also important to note that cards can be moved out of destroyed cities. If a unit is ever moved to a city and that player's battle stations are all filled, that unit is discarded. I also want to briefly mention discarding cards from the Moloch player's deck. There are cards and abilities that allow the outpost player to discard cards from the Moloch player's deck. If a card would be discarded from the Moloch player's deck and the Moloch player doesn't have any cards left in its deck, then the outpost player can choose a robot from the city where the card or ability was activated to remove from the game. If there are no robots in the city, then the Moloch player has a random card from their hand discarded. Finally, I want to quickly highlight the abilities of a few units, buildings, and modules to clarify their use. In general, many of the abilities are self-explanatory, but some would require clarification. Let's start with the Mullet player's units and modules. Robots' abilities can typically target themselves, so for instance, the brain can take itself back into the Mullet player's hand, and the clown can kill itself to use its skill. The Dreadnought is only immune to building or units abilities. It's not immune to instant cards or the effect of bombs. The Juggernaut can't be moved by cards or during the Mullet Convoy movement phase. If the Juggernaut's ability is cancelled by a deactivation token or the EMP launcher, however, it can move. Spiders can be placed in a district where all of the battle stations are occupied. It's important to note, however, that if the Spider's ability is deactivated by the hacker or the EMP launcher and there's not a battle station to occupy, the Spider would then be discarded. The Annihilator reduces the outpost's battle station number by 1. If all of the outpost's battle stations are occupied when the unit is played, then the Mullet player gets to choose one of the outpost's units or buildings to discard. The Brute places a shield token on a chosen robot. The shield token makes the chosen robot and any attached modules immune to outpost soldier and building skills. This token doesn't protect against instant cards, however. The Net module can place a Net token, which disables a soldier in the same city until the end of the current battle. The netted soldier's strength and abilities don't count when resolving the battle, but in the next battle, the soldier's strength and skills would operate normally again. Now let's look at the outpost player's units, buildings, and instant cards. Nestigov allows the outpost player to steal modules from the robots and attach them to soldiers. Each soldier can only hold one module. The outpost player can use modules in the module activation phase after the Mullet player. Other than that, the modules work in the exact same way except that the outpost player uses them instead of the Mullet player. The EMP launcher turns off the special skills of all robots or modules in that district. It's important to note that strength modules are unaffected by the EMP launcher, however. If a robot with a shield token moves or is placed in a city where the EMP launcher is already present, that robot's immunity is cancelled. If the EMP launcher is placed in a city where a robot with a shield is already present, however, that robot is still protected. And finally, the Sniper allows the outpost player to kill any robot, even if a robot is immune to the outpost card effects. Now you know everything you need to know to play a game of Neuroshima Convoy. If you're interested in playing this game, it can be purchased on the iOS App Store or on the Google Play Marketplace. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you at the table.